Good afternoon, everyone. I see that we have filled up the spaces so very quickly. Welcome to the 41st Annual Australian Science Teachers Association's iCubed Science Awards. My name is Paula, and I'll be your host this evening, or afternoon, depending what time zone you're joining us. And I will be introducing some special guests throughout the afternoon. And I'd like to thank you in advance for joining us. I know we're all busy, but I'd like to acknowledge that you're here today with us to celebrate Australia's youth and their capabilities in science. I also wish to acknowledge all the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and pay my respect to the elders of the land in which we teach and we learn. And if you could be so kind to add in the chat where you are coming from, the country that you are representing. Now we have a very packed evening ahead of us with several categories of awards being announced. Some of them are fairly brand new to us, so we are very pleased to tell you that our awards winners are growing, and we're going to recognize some of the finest projects tonight. So just a bit of housekeeping. Please make sure that you are muted unless you have been designated with a speaking role. And we are recording this session for promotional purposes. So now to officially open the iCubed Science Awards ceremony, it is my great pleasure to introduce to you the Australian Science Teachers Association President, Margaret Shepherd.
Thank you for joining us today for this very special event where we come together to celebrate Australian youth in science. The ASTA iCubed Science Awards program celebrates the 3 I's: inquiry, innovation, and ingenuity across Australian school students of science, technology, engineering, and maths. It is supported by the Science Teacher Association in every state and territory around Australia, and so provides a truly national reach. The ASTA iCubed Awards targets primary and secondary school students across Australia with a special emphasis on engaging all students from our diverse cultural, socioeconomic, and geographical populations. The awards program seeks to inspire and motivate the next generation of scientists, innovators, and problem solvers by providing an opportunity for students to showcase scientific talents and creativity. Over the 2024 school year, students have been busy working as scientists and engineers, developing scientific reports, in fact, over 7,000. And these were judged at the state fairs and competitions across the nation. What we are seeing here tonight is the exemplary projects that have been submitted for the next level of further judging and recognition. These truly are the best of the best. I do encourage all of you to go to our virtual fair on the iCubed Awards portal and just have a look at some of the outstanding work of these students. We are very pleased to welcome and recognise Questacon as a bronze level sponsor who sponsor the Excellence Awards for the best primary projects received from each of the state and territory organisations. We're also pleased to announce that UNICEF will be awarding a prize to a project that aligns with their humanitarian work. That's a new one. We would also like to acknowledge the expertise of our international senior judging panel members who are all experts in their own STEM fields. The projects entered into this National Awards program in 2024 are simply remarkable and rightly deserve to be recognised here tonight. We thank you, our audience, for being with us as we announce for the first time our ASTA iCubed Science Awards winners for 2025. So on behalf of the science teachers across the nation, your work is truly extraordinary, and we are very proud and inspired by your commitment to science and its ability to solve many complex problems that require a STEM solution.
Thank you, Margaret, for your great words of wisdom. These young people can make a difference and do wonderful work with their science investigations, and as we will see tonight. Now, I'd like to introduce to you a long-time senior judge who has been part of the ASTA iCubed Awards for some time now, and it's the former chief scientist of Western Australia and a distinguished neuroscientist, Professor Lynn Beasley, who is an apology for this evening, but she would like to say a few words to you all tonight.
Which I will get onto the screen in just a moment. My apologies.
Hello everybody, my name's Lynn Beasley and I'm so happy to join you tonight. I wish I could be there in person, but I'm afraid it's just not possible this year. But I just wanted to say to you all, you're going to have the most exciting evening. It's going to be so terrific. I love this program because it gives you all the opportunity to shine, to bring your new ideas in science, technology, engineering and maths to help make the world a better place. You know, I was very involved with the Square Kilometre Array, the amazing array of radio telescopes here in Australia and in South Africa. And I talked to many of the people who were involved in the program. And I said, why so many so young? And they said, because young people don't know what's impossible and they go ahead and solve it anyway. That's exactly what you can do. Your ideas down the track can become a reality. Thank you all for being part of this. Congratulations on getting to the final. Thank you to everyone behind the scenes who's made it work. Have an amazing event and go science, technology, engineering and maths, go.
Lynn is such a champion for young people. And so without further ado, we are going to start to introduce our primary award winners. So I have the pleasure of introducing you to Dr. Bobby Serini, Deputy Director from Questacon, who is going to announce our excellent award winners for the primary division. And we do thank her for her sponsorship of these awards. And Bobby, we hope that she's with us. And I know she's experiencing a little bit of Wi-Fi issues, but are we with us, Bobby?
I'm here, Paula. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Beautiful.
Well, hello, everyone. Such a pleasure to be here with you today as we celebrate these really exciting and outstanding achievements of our youngest scientists. These awardees were recognised and entered by their local science teacher associations as being outstanding overall and worthy of national recognition. And I would just like to say on behalf of Questacon, congratulations to all the awardees and congratulations to all of the teachers who have supported them in being brought forward. Without further ado then, let us go to the primary finalists. Thomas Stockings from the Australian Capital Territory for the project Gaming, Getting to the Heart of It. Hamish McMillan from New England and Northwest New South Wales, How to Spot a Robot. Percy McDonald, Brisbane Inner City in Queensland. Magnificent, and I'm loving these names that the students have come up with for their projects. Cooper Boswerger from Gold Coast in Queensland, Oceanic Discoverer 4. Casper Sancien in Adelaide, South Australia. Bubble Tea, How Popping Pearls Are Made. Quinn Hansen, Adelaide, Central and St Hills. Do bicarbonate soda or baking powder make bigger cookies? Great question. Bryden Chan, Melbourne from Victoria. Child in Car Reminder. Charlotte Demore, La Trobe in Gippsland. Heat of attraction, does temperature affect magnetic attraction? And finally, Chloe Coulter from Perth, Southwest WA. Kangaroo Gut Health. Fantastic programs, and I can't wait to look those up on the iCubed website. Thank you very much. Back to you, Paula.
Thank you, Bobby, for presenting those awards, and again for being with us today and to represent Questacon as our valued sponsor. So have a good evening, and congratulations to all of our Primary Excellence Award winners. Well done to you from all across the nation. Now, we're on to our category awards, and we'll just present our next slide where we can see the various categories. So as I said, this is a brand new award in which we are going to recognize students' projects who are outstanding across 5 of these categories, which really are some of our greatest STEM challenges. And I'm pleased to announce the category finalists from across all of our students in years 7 to 12. Now we have a fair few, so I'll start with the Agriculture Awards. So first I'd like to congratulate Lily, and she's coming from Coffs Harbour. We have Devanshi from New South Wales. We have Ty Beer and Kian and Kadam coming from Northern Territory. And we have Mithuli coming from Northern Territory as well. And on to our Curiosity and Ingenuity Awards. And this is 1 page of 2. And I'll start with Emma Zhang. Congratulations from the ACT. We have Callum and Jaden and Jason, also from the ACT. And we have Max and Jack, also from the ACT. And congratulations to Michael from the eastern suburbs of New South Wales. We have Jay from New South Wales, from the mid-north coast. And we have Xavier from the capital region of New South Wales. And our additional curiosity recognition will go to Ibram from inner southwest of New South Wales. We have Muriki from Queensland. We have Sam, Ethan, and Sophie coming in from Queensland. Congratulations. We have Ivan, also from Queensland. And we have Michelle from Queensland. And we have Helen, also from Queensland. Congratulations to the Curiosity winners. Now on to our digital and electronic technology. We have 3 wonderful projects from Gemma from the Northern Beaches in New South Wales. We have Tim from North Sydney and Hornsby, New South Wales. And we have Zihan from Parramatta, New South Wales. Congratulations. Now for our health and disease, we have Alexander from the mid-north coast from New South Wales. And congratulations to Nevada from New England and northwest of New South Wales. And Ellie, also coming from New South Wales from the inner west. And congratulations to Kira from Adelaide in South Australia. And we have Jane, also winning from Victoria from Warrnambool and Southwest. Well done. Now from our sustainability and climate change, we have a fair number of them. So congratulations to Suan from the ACT, to Serena from Ryde in New South Wales, to Hans in Northern Beaches of New South Wales. We have David from Riverina in New South Wales, and Emily from North Sydney and Hornsby, New South Wales. And for our final winners in the Sustainability and Climate Change category, we congratulate Yesha from Southwest New South Wales, Elise from the Gold Coast in Queensland. We have Chloe from Central and Hills of South Australia. And we have Ella and Junlin, or Jolin, from Melbourne, Inner Victoria. And we have Cheyenne from Melbourne, Northeast Victoria. And we have Declan, Lucas, and Tom from Perth, Southeast, Western Australia. So the wonderful work that we are celebrating this evening is often made possible with the mentors and teachers, as we've already mentioned earlier today. And they have really inspired these students to progress their projects, and they have come all this way to the finals. So the Minister of Education, Minister Jason Clare, sends his warmest congratulations to all of the countless school communities and all their students who participated in science fairs in 2024. Now, I'm going to take the time now to introduce our keynote for the evening, and who, like most of the students here today, not only likes to conduct research, but likes to communicate it broadly for others to learn from. So Tony Hunter is a food futurist speaker. He's a food scientist, author, and strategic foresight consultant, specializing in the future of food, beverage, and the agriculture industries, which we saw was one of our STEM categories. So as an expert in his field, he consults with global food companies from PepsiCo to KFC. So let's give Tony Hunter a warm ASTA welcome.
Thank you very much for that warm welcome, Paula. And thank you very much to ASTA for having me here tonight and allowing me to present a little bit of what I do as a food futurist. And of course, I get two questions when I tell people I'm a food futurist. The first one is, what is a food futurist? Well, unfortunately, I am not a fortune teller. I can't tell you what your exam results are going to be or who's going to win the sport on the weekend. Unfortunately, you're going to be disappointed if that's what you're looking for. So if I could predict the future, exactly what was going to happen, I would be on my island, lying on a beach in the sun somewhere, but I'm not. But of course, I'd much rather be here with you all at the ASTA ceremonies this afternoon or tonight anyway. So if I can't predict the future, as a food futurist, what is it that I do? What I do is I look at predicting or preparing what we call alternative futures. That's different futures that could be happening based on all of the cutting edge technologies for industry and consumers that I see as I'm scanning the horizon of what's coming up. And I use those to help my consulting clients, and when I speak as well, to navigate their way into the future. And the other question I get is, well, how did you become a food futurist? Well, my story goes right back to where many of you are right now, back to my days at high school. Don't ask me how long ago that was. Particularly when I was in year 11 and 12, I decided that I discovered that I really loved biology, particularly those microbes, yeast, bacteria, the very smallest beings, expressions of life. And so I decided I would become a microbiologist. And I can remember in the kitchen one day, going up to my mother's saying, what is it that you want to be? And I said, Mum, I want to be a microbiologist. And she looked at me and she said, can you make a living out of being a microbiologist? So I opened the cupboard door and I pointed to the products in there and I said, Mum, you see all of those products in there, all of those companies, they all employ microbiologists. So my mum said, okay, fair enough. So I was one of the few people in my year who knew what I wanted to do exactly before I left high school. And I went on to get a postgraduate degree in microbiology and went into the food industry. And as many of you will find when you go into industry and even some ways in academia, at some point you have to make a decision. Do you go to become a full-time scientist, and that is your career for the rest of your life? Or do you go into management, where you become a manager, maybe of an organization or a company? And I decided to go the management route. And I went on to become general manager of two food companies, one making meat pizza toppings for Pizza Hut, the other one making hamburger patties for Burger King. And then went into my own consulting business. And because I saw in around 2017 how things were fundamentally changing in the food industry. technologies coming into the industry I'd never seen before, just new and exciting stuff going on all the time. So I went into the futurist space, or as they're called in corporate, foresight strategy, looking at those alternative futures. And I also wanted to get the message out to what I talked about to a larger audience. And that's why I went into speaking. So rather than talking to half a dozen people in a corporate boardroom, I can talk to hundreds, thousands of people over the years. And I've spoken around the world, from Dubai, Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, Vienna, Frankfurt, Helsinki, all around the world, telling people about what I see the future of food being. And one question, though, that comes up when I tell people that's those two stories is, look, if you can't predict the future, why bother exploring or studying the future at all? The answer is simple. We explore the future so we can make the best possible decisions today. It's like you saying to yourself, I want to have a certain career in 5 years' time. Well, you look at where you want to be, and then you come back to, well, what plan, what actions do I need to do today to make sure that I can achieve that future and any changes that come along in the meantime. And that's, again, what I do with my clients is we look at the future, and we're talking the long-term future here, 5, 10, 15, 20 years into the future, looking at what the future could look like, what the alternatives are, and making sure that whatever the future turns out to be, they're ready and they're prepared for it. And I'm particularly interested in the future of food because eating and drinking are the only two things you have to do if you want to stay alive. And we're going to have 11 billion entities on the planet by 2050. And I say entities quite deliberately because besides our 9.7 billion humans, we're going to have at least 1.3 billion pet cats and dogs, each eating as much protein as a human. And we need to find a way to feed all of them. Because where we are at the moment is, this is how much food we can actually produce within planetary boundaries. This is how much food we're going to need. So how do we fill the gap? And by filling that gap, we need to have a new paradigm on how we view our planet. Our planet is not an infinite well of resources. It's more like a closed environment space station, where everything that comes in goes out, everything that goes out comes back in again. And we need to find a way to manage our resources if we're going to feed our 11 billion entities sustainably, healthily, and fairly. And we're going to need to use new technologies because we cannot solve today's problems using yesterday's technologies. Now, just imagine if we were to try and fulfill all our telecommunications needs using the mobile phones of, let's say, 40 years ago. This is 1984. This is the Motorola Dynatec 8000X. It weighed 785 grams. It was 33 centimeters long, 9 centimeters deep, and 4.5 centimeters wide. It had 30 minutes talk time and 8 hours of standby. Imagine if we were trying to do our telecommunications with that old technology. So what I've done in my futurist role is to have a look at what do I believe are the most important technologies that are going to drive the future of food for decades to come. I'm not saying these are the only technologies, but these 5 are the most important technologies I believe are going to drive the future of food, and they're going to be accelerated by 3 other technologies. And I'll explain these technologies in more detail as we come to some examples. But the technologies are alternative proteins, cellular agriculture, genomics, the microbiome, and synthetic biology. And they're going to be accelerated by 3 other technologies: artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and sensors, all leading to our future of food. And I'll just give you a few brief examples of each of these technologies. The first one is alternative proteins. Many of you will have heard about plant-based foods, I'm sure, but how about food from air? Yes, food from air. A company called Solar Foods in Finland, they suck air into their proprietary machinery. They separate out the water, the carbon dioxide, and the nitrogen. They split the water into hydrogen and oxygen using solar energy. That's why Solar Foods. They process the nitrogen and the carbon dioxide, add some microbes in there and some minerals, and they can make food basically from thin air without arable land and without fresh water. Their Factory 01 is now in production, and they have their equally imaginatively named Factory 02, 03, and 04, which will come online in 2026, 2027. And they're already selling products. A Japanese company called Ajinomoto have released their flowering mooncakes under their Atelier 72 brand just last year. Our other technology here is cellular agriculture. And some of you may be familiar with cultivated meat, or to use something that's not a true description, lab-based meat, where you take a few cells from an animal and you can grow meat in huge stainless steel tanks. But you can also do that for plant cells. Now, who out there likes chocolate? I am sure there's a lot of nodding heads, a lot of hands going on out there, but our chocolate is in danger. We have low pollination rates. We have diseases, lack of labor, deforestation. I mean, if you've been and bought a bar of chocolate recently, you know how bad the situation is. Luckily, a company called California Cultured is taking cacao plant cells, and they're growing those plant cells in huge stainless steel reactors again, and they're making the components to make chocolate. And they've just signed a 10-year contract with, again, a Japanese company called Meiji to supply them with chocolate ingredients for the next 10 years. So luckily, our chocolate is safe. The next technology is genomics, which is, of course, the study of DNA and the genetic material that all living material is made from. And if you look at how quickly that's advancing, when the first human genome was sequenced, the sequence of the DNA was done in 2001, $100 million US. That's dropped hugely over the intervening years. The data is only available to 2022, but that's around $600 US. And it's predicted in 2025 we'll get down to $200 US, just over 300 Australian dollars, versus nearly 200 million Australian dollars in 2021. Now, if we look at our genome and then we look at the effect it has on our nutrition, we have something called nutrigenomics. And this company called Nutrigenomics with an X, they will sequence your DNA and they will tell you what effect your DNA has on your predisposition to, say, things like caffeine metabolism. I am a slow caffeine metabolizer, as I discovered when I had a test done by Nutrigenomics. So I brought my caffeine, my last cup of coffee, back to around about 3 o'clock instead of 5 o'clock so that I can sleep better. And you can use genomics to determine a lot of the things, the ways you react to food. Probably somewhere around 30% is determined by your genome. The rest of your reaction to food is determined by your microbiome. Now, your microbiome is all the yeast, bacteria, viruses, and everything else that live on and in your body. But by far and away, the vast majority of the microbes in your body and on your body are in your gut. And there's a nerve called the vagus nerve, which runs from your gut to your brain. And round about 90% of all the signals between the two are going from your gut to your brain. I want to know what it's saying. In fact, there are so many neurons around our gut that we have as many neurons as the brain of a cat. It's been called our second brain, or somewhat less kindly, the brain in our butt. And there are companies now which have been set up, like this company called Viome, which will sequence or determine your microbiome, all the different bacteria and other things that live in your gut and affect all sorts of things like sleeping, stomach, energy, all these sorts of things. And they will tell you how you're going to react to certain types of food, because we all react very differently. If we gave everybody on this call tonight the same piece of food, some people would have high blood sugar from that food, some people would not. There is no such thing as the perfect diet for everyone. Everybody is highly individual. And we're seeing enormous growth in the science of the microbiome. You cannot overestimate how important our microbiome is. When I did my degree in microbiology, the only good microbe was a dead microbe. If we could just get rid of them all, we could fulfill our true genetic potential. No, we've now learned that if we didn't have our gut microbiome, we could only extract a small portion of nutrition that we currently extract from our food. So our microbiome and our bodies are inextricably intertwined. In fact, there are as many microbial cells in and on our body as human cells. We're actually almost half other cells. So the last technology I want to talk about is something called synthetic biology, which most often involves taking the DNA and inserting it from one organism and inserting it into another organism, or even synthetic DNA. And that can be used to make a lot of food products. An interesting one, my favorite one, is something called plant molecular farming. So you put the gene for a plant into, a gene you want to make for a product you want to make into a plant. You grow that plant, you extract the compound you want, and you use that to make a food. This company is called Nobel Foods. They've inserted the gene for casein, which is what makes cheese nice and yummy and stretchy, and they put that into soybeans. They grow the soybeans, they extract the casein to make cheese, and they process the rest of the soybean as per normal. So you can make cheese without the cow. And no conversation about pretty well anything these days, as James will be happy to hear, does not involve talking about AI.
Wake up, Daddy's home.
Welcome home, sir.
That is, of course, the personal AI from Jarvis. Just another rather very intelligent system from the Iron Man movies. And of course, something like that, up until a few years ago, we thought was decades away. It was just going to be something that happened in the far distant future. But it's happening, as we know, right now, and has been since November the 30th, 2022. And it has made its way into the food industry very rapidly. And we have a company called Vivi Cola, who asked the original ChatGPT 3.5 back in November 2022-23 to design a vegan craft soda and give them a formulation. So it gave them a formulation using something called the Haskap berry, which is grown in northern parts of Europe. They then asked it for a name. It gave them a name.
Kitten.
Vivi Nova. So, of course, our friendly food technologists, they go there, they try out the formulation, they put it all together. And like all good food technologists, I mean, if you're a food technologist working on a product, you always love your own product. Right? But of course, you've got to give it to a few other people to see what they think as well. And some other people thought it tasted pretty good too. So now they had the formulation and they had the name. and they asked the Unreal 3D engine and Midjourney to design a label based on the Hascat berry. And this is what it came up with. So they had a formulation, a name, and a label, all essential when you're putting together a new food product. And they claim that this took them 2 days. Now, normally, going back 10, 20 years, you were talking 18 months. Even today, fast is maybe 18 weeks. So even if this is just almost a fluke, it just shows what AI can do in the food industry. Now, we've covered a lot of ground in what we've talked about here tonight, but the key thing to remember is all of this is science fact, not science fiction. The only thing is we're yet to see the full impact of all of these technologies, and we have barely even scratched the surface of what's happening around the world. And it really is true to say that today's reality was yesterday's science fiction. So thanks very much for having me here tonight. I hope you found a lot of that as fascinating as I do. Food used to be a sleepy technological backwater, but as you can see, it's a fascinating field. And whether you want to work in the field of proteins or genomics or microbiology or synthetic biology or AI, there is something for you to do in the food industry. It's a fascinating place, and I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony, for your insightful talk on how you apply not just AI, but your scientific thinking and your knowledge to predict, as you said, which is nearly impossible, the food of the future. But something close to my heart, and many, as you said, is please keep up the chocolate production. That's quite important.
Absolutely.
I will ask you to hold on. We are going to ask you to present the awards, but first we're just going to take, dare I say, a commercial break. We would like to invite the Minister, Ed Husick, who sends his apologies for this evening, but he does have some words to share with our students here tonight. So we'll just take a break and listen to Minister Husick.
Hi everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to say a few words for today's awards ceremony. I really wish I could be there in person, but it's budget day in Canberra and that's the one day I can't cut school. So first and foremost, congratulations to all the recipients of the Australian Science Teachers Association iCubed Teacher Awards, which are a wonderful initiative showcasing the best of our emerging scientific talents and creativity, celebrating inquiry and ingenuity across Australian school students studying STEM. Crucially, the awards come with a particular emphasis on engaging with students from all walks of life and all corners of the country, something we as a government wholeheartedly support. Because after all, STEM studies are for everyone. Like you, the government focused on breaking down barriers that prevent people from underrepresented groups from pursuing STEM education and careers. So thank you to the Australian Science Teachers Association for organising the awards and for your efforts to equip the next generation of Australian scientists, entrepreneurs and problem solvers with the skills of the future. Because there is something every successful Australian scientist has in common, from Nobel Prize winners of the past to the researchers working on the solutions for tomorrow. Every one of them has had a teacher early in their journey that inspired a love of discovery and a passion for the world around them. The government, through my department, is proud to partner with the Australian Science Teachers Association on initiatives under our Inspiring Australia Science Engagement program. The government wants to nurture the education and careers of students across the country. Talented and driven young Australians like you are going to be a big part of Australia's future. The winners, and indeed all the finalists, they've got every reason to be extremely proud of their achievements. Congratulations to you all. And of course, an enormous shout out has got to go to your teachers and parents who've helped support you through the competition. And I'm certain they're as proud as you are. Congratulations again. Please enjoy the rest of today's ceremony. Thank you very much.
It's always great to have Minister Ed Husick, the Minister of Industry and Science, join us for these events. But I will pass it back to Tony, who will introduce our junior and intermediate, so the students from year 7 to 10 in their Excellence Awards. So over to you, Tony.
Thank you very much for that, Paula. So now we have our junior awards, and our first award goes to Kira Dixon in Adelaide in South Australia, exploring the effectiveness of honey as a natural antiseptic, an important research endeavour. And we all love honey, and it makes such a great antiseptic, and look forward to seeing more of that, Kira. And next we have our Junior Innovation Award, Sam Fairburn, Ethan Thompson, Sophie Telford, for the Hangry cat toy. What I love about this one is the toy, the insides of the toy pops out. I just don't know where you guys came up with that one, but congratulations. Next, we have our intermediate awards, and our first intermediate award goes to the Inquiry Award to Chloe Yu from Adelaide, Central Hills, South Australia. Functionality of bioplastics, investigating the physical and mechanical properties of algal bioplastics. And I tell you, my wife, Chloe, is going to be ecstatic that you got that, because she loves algae. My Candy, my poor wife, has got dragged into the future of food and everything else. Algae is her favorite, and we have some of the best algal scientists in the world based in Australia. Our next award is the Intermediate Innovation Award 2025 from Emma and Yu Zhang. And it's the omega type metamaterial with low loss design elements and a negative refractive index at the 21 centimeter line. Now, I've been around for a while and seen a few science things, and that one got me. Way beyond me, Emma, but apparently it has great uses in radio astronomy, which I didn't know. I've learned something very new tonight, so congratulations. Congratulations to all of those award winners. Fantastic efforts, guys, and I wish you again all the best in your future as STEM practitioners.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. And you're right, I learn all my science from these young scientists. They always have something to teach us. And as mentioned earlier, we did talk about the wonderful UNICEF Australia folks who are here with us tonight, who are sponsoring a UNICEF Australia Award. And they do work with children, young people, communities, governments to protect children from the worst impacts of climate crisis. And we know that climate change is changing childhood. So one of their UNICEF goals is to empower children and young people with education, skills, and opportunities to lead climate action. And as you heard earlier, we did recognize many students in that climate change and sustainability category. So we have a fair few to choose from. But UNICEF was very much focused on one particular project. So they were very pleased with the winner that was selected. And I'd like to acknowledge the winner for the UNICEF 2025 prize will go to Elise Nguyen. And she's from the Gold Coast, and her project was on optimized awnings. And in this project, she looks at reducing heat stress by these movable panels that are all controlled by electronics and sensors as the sun comes across the sky. So that is very impressive. Congratulations, Elise, and thank you very much to UNICEF for sponsoring this prize and for joining us here tonight. And so now we are moving to that pointy end of the evening where we get to announce our grand award winners. Now, as the chair of the ASTA iCube Science Awards and as a long-time judge, both nationally and internationally, it is my privilege to have sat with those senior judges for these awards. And the projects presented to us were of exceptional quality, which is, as you can imagine, we expected at this level. So their ability to describe and articulate their scientific processes and their thinking under pressure with all of these strange judges in the room was absolutely impressive. So being selected as a national winner is an incredible accomplishment. And all of you should be very proud to have completed the best projects in the country. So congratulations to these 8 finalists who we're going to now announce. Several of them will be winning our grand prizes. So as a result of this very strong field of finalists, it was decided by ASTA to add an additional recognition this year to commend an outstanding project that is clearly a passion project for one of our students that they will no doubt continue to work on, and they'll be inspired to partake more studies and to continue on their pathway as a STEM professional. So I'm very pleased to announce that Ibrahim Ozkan is going to receive a highly commended this year for his project on future energy generation systems through the inertial electrostatic confinement, what he called the IEC, of nuclear isotopes and its fusion through quantum tunneling. Now, Tony, that was a project I learned a lot about as well. So well done to Ibrahim for this achievement. All right, I hope I'm hearing lots of virtual claps. If you haven't used that icon down at the bottom, you can react because that was a very impressive project. Now comes our grand prize winners. So given that we are the I-Cubed Awards, we are now going to read out the grand winners for the Ingenuity, Innovation, and Inquiry in that order. So starting with Ingenuity, our grand prize winner goes to Ellie Cole on her project titled Driving Towards Healthier Air, Invention of a New Device to Optimize Air Quality for Vehicle Occupants in the Tunnels of Sydney. And she calls it the Car Canary. So this project involved designing and testing a device that would signal to the driver if levels of carbon dioxide and any other traffic-related pollutants, and I can imagine there's a few more in the Sydney tunnels, if they're being elevated and needed some further action. So Ellie was able to gather air quality data using a sensor, actually multiple sensors, to determine how a range of variables, such as driving with the window up or down in those tunnels, or perhaps even recirculating the air in the cabin, how that all impacted air quality. So she was able to refer to that data, especially when the judges challenged her. She was able to answer intelligently, and she really was an advocate as to how this device can be utilized, perhaps in different parts of the globe that are severely impacted by air pollution. So congratulations, Ellie, for your outstanding work and winning the Ingenuity Award for 2025. Now we're on to our grand prize winner for innovation for 2025. And this one is going to Tim Wilson. And hopefully you're all doing a big virtual clap for Tim. His project was entitled The Cuddle and Comfort Chimp, an innovative soft robotic sleep aid. Now, as an emerging and empathetic engineer, Tim was inspired by a family member who had difficulties with falling asleep. And I think we're actually looking at the chimp that he sewed, which was one of the other skills that he possessed, as well as being an engineer and an electronics major. And he worked on data analysis and collecting CO2 data, and he had sensors and all this programming. But when asked and challenged, he said that this chimp, as cute as it is, can detect your CO2 output or of the person who is suffering from sleep anxiety. And then all of the mechanics within its body would alter and change to match your rhythm so that the chest expanded and contracted to give that anxious sleeper some comfort. So congratulations, Tim, for an outstanding innovative project. And then we're on to our last I. We are going to announce that our final grand prize winner for inquiry is going to Nevada Giants on their project titled Determining the Quenching Mechanism of Coumarin fluorophore by ascorbate. It's an experimental confirmation of the inner filter effect. Again, Tony, I learned so much science from reading this one. We have a true chemist amongst us. So Nevada has been working towards a reliable way to determine if food has spoiled through fluorescence sensing. So our judges were unanimously impressed by Nevada's ability to explain how this process is highly applicable to a range of emerging fields in chemistry and health, and clearly food health. She obviously shouldn't listen to a mother like yours that says don't go into food science. There's no job in it. But clearly, Nevada has paved the way to be a chemist in that field. So she was able to speak intelligently and as an expert. It really sounded like we were speaking to an expert. She was able to describe her laboratory techniques, her results very thoroughly, and really all the benefits to society with such accuracy and knowledge. So congratulations, Nevada, for not just impressing me, but really the panel. So congratulations to you, to all of the grand prize winners for tonight, and really all of our finalists. I will give you some facts and figures. We heard Margaret say that we had 7,000 across the country, which really represents 10,000 children involved in science projects. But at the end of the day, 103 were submitted to the ASTA iCubed Awards. And we were able to learn from you, grow from you, and be inspired by you. So congratulations to everyone who got to this point. Now, it is my pleasure to pass on to Margaret, who is going to give us some closing remarks. But do watch out for some media as we continue to celebrate and highlight the achievements of these young Australians.
Thank you, Paula. You did a wonderful job tonight as MC for the awards. And I too am blown over. The quality of work, the amazing conversations that these final 8 students were able to have with the judges and also with myself was extremely high standard. So well done, everyone. I really want to give a very big shout out and a big thank you to our senior judging panel. They were amazing and it was such a big job. Mind you, they had a lot of fun. I will tell you that, students. They enjoyed every minute of being with you that night. So well done. I'd also like to say thank you, a big thank you to the State Science Teachers Associations, because without them, this project wouldn't show the best of the best to Australia. So well done to all the STAs. I also want to thank our team at the ASTA Secretariat for their support, but most of all, the iCubed Organising Committee, which were they just give of their heart. They love this award system. They love being able to recognise the students, and they were led so well by the amazing convener, Paula, who has been with us all night tonight. So thank you, team. That was amazing. All of them have been integral to these awards coming together here tonight. Mind you, that hasn't stopped. There's still a lot of work to go yet, even after this. We've got lots of letters and some little things coming to you all in the mail, guys. You'll get something very, very soon. So well done. So thank you for coming tonight, to our wonderful audience, coming and celebrating the next generation of Australian science, technology, engineering or maths professionals. And I'm sure every one of these students is committed to improving the future of our world. So thank you for your inquiry. Thank you for being innovative. Thank you for your ingenuity. We look forward to next year, the iCubed program in 2025-26. So good night to all. Thank you very much for being with us. Good night now.